Good morning, teachers and students. I'm a teacher, my name is Dilorom. My surname is Mirchodjaeva, and my patronymic name is Батировна. I teach in here for 5 years. I work at Tashkent Institute of Textile and Light Industry. I teach subjects are pedagogy and psychology, professional pedagogy, professional psychology, education technologies, innovation technologies, and so on. And subjects are also methodic educational upbringing works, psychological diagnosis and practice, professional pedagogy, psychology of control, and so on, and other subjects. I teach very many Russian groups. I like Russian, language Russian, and I like English. I have many Russian groups. Clues, and today's my theme is pedagogy and its nature, or pedagogy as a science, or why learning pedagogy. Plans are first, purpose pedagogy. Second plans is methods of pedagogy. Third plans is principles of education, and so on, and others. Clues are its clues. It's keywords. Keywords is upbringing, education, technologies, pedagogic technologies, innovation, innovator, and methods, technologies, and so on. It's keywords. And next presentation, please. Next presentation. Pedagogy. Pedagogy as a complex science about upbringing and about education. It's learned how to teach to knowledge, abilities, skills to the students from generation to generation. Because its subject needs in all spheres, in all institutes, in all universities, and in all spheres, in all faculties, in all BSS and specialties. Because it's need mathematics, physics, chemistry, and so on. Pedagogy answers the questions: how must be professional teacher, and how must be good student and or pupils. Pedagogy answers the question: how to teach to information, how to teach to information from generation to generation, to new generation. Because it's a very interesting subject, and pedagogy learn to how to help people for knowledge, skills, abilities, and to study different subjects. And the next presentation. Works of the teacher. First, to explain. Because it's very important for education in studying, because teacher can explain to the students, and she can speak with students, and she can explain to students new information, new things, and new topic about pedagogy, about education, about upbringing. And next work to get results in education. Next, teaching knowledge. Next word, development, self-education. Creating conditions, new ideas, innovation to give knowledge, abilities, skills to the students. Next works of the teacher is to write handbook about subject, attention to students, pupils, participants. Students' name or may we name participants or pupils or students. Next, attention to student, pupil, participants. How must be good student, learner, pupil? It was first functions of students. It's students to read very many about course different subjects. because it's very important for study, for education, for institutes, for universities. And next, the function is of student is to respect all teachers in education. Next functions to remember all information on the lesson, because all teachers and professional teachers very many explain, and he is or she is to give very many information about subjects, and that's why student must be remember it information, it technologies, it methods, it different methods about subject. Next functions of pupils or students is to explain the topic to the teacher. Next functions is to ask something teacher about topic questions. And students must be done talking at the lessons, because it's very more important for lesson, because when teacher to explain, student must be quick. Next functions of students is keep discipline. Next, be active on all lessons to answer teacher's questions. Come on lessons in time. Don't late on lessons. Next thing, it's a topic. Pedagogy has different methods. First method is conversation. Next method is observation, test, debate, short story. Next method is debating, presentation, and so on. And pedagogy has branches of pedagogy are professional pedagogy and social pedagogy, art pedagogy, and neuropedagogy. It's a new pedagogy technologies. General pedagogy, next control of pedagogy, next family pedagogy, and associate pedagogy. It's a new branches of pedagogy. Basic categories of pedagogy are education, upbringing, develop, and information. Types of upbringing are intellectual upbringing, ethic upbringing, aesthetic upbringing, spiritual upbringing, economical upbringing, and ecological upbringing. Different branches of pedagogy and age pedagogy to learn different ages from people and all people in our life. Next topic in this thing is principles of the education. Them are 7. First is education must be scientific. Second principles of education is to use aids, devices, medias. These are projector, computer, notebook, books, pencils, pens, cancellaries, and envelopes, different handout, and so on. Because very many things has aids devices, and mediums. Next principle is of education is joining theories with practice. Take into account individual abilities of students, participators, pupils. 5. Humanistic approach to students in studying. 6. Integral and systematic way of studying. 7. Realize and be active students in education. Next presentation. Connection pedagogy with the other sciences. Connection pedagogy, very many sciences. They are connection with psychology, connection with aesthetic, connection with ethics, connection with story connection with all social subjects. Also, pedagogy needs all subjects to give knowledge how correct to explain information about specialized to students. Pedagogy learning all PSS skills, PSS spheres. Pedagogy need all spheres of faculties and universities, institutions, and all faculties and so on, and others. Pedagogy answers the questions how to teach, do it, when to teach it, why to teach it, and what to teach it, because it's very important subject in our education, in study, in the lessons, in all lessons. The term education is derived from a Latin word educate, which means to bring up. This subject helps to give information, knowledge, abilities, skills from generation to generation. The levels continuous education of Uzbekistan are 7. First level is preschool education. These are kindergartens and so on and others. Next level is second level is secondary education. These are all school science, first class until 11 classes. Third level is secondary special education. These are museums, colleges, and so on. Fourth level is higher education. These are universities, institutions, and so on. The fifth level is after higher education. It's to do scientific work. If somebody wants to scientific work, it must be to study this level, because it's a level to study Doctor of Philosophy and Doctor of Science. Next level is sixth level is Teacher Training Center and further training of staff. There are study to give certificate. And next level is out of school. It's courses, different courses. These are different courses. Circle, small circle. And next work of the teacher is first to teach in all students, in all pupils, and so all people in our life, because teaching that is possible transfer of knowledge, life experiences, ways of life, the foundation of culture and science. Second, guides the development of knowledge, skills, and abilities formation. Thus, creating conditions for personal development of students. Pedagogy has national program of training personnel, and law about education was accepted in August 29 in 1997 on 19th session of our Majlis in Uzbekistan. There are 3 levels. But purpose this national program is the level of preparation, abilities, skills, knowledge, intellectual specialist teachers. There are 3 levels. First level is preparation of science pedagogical personnel to take into consideration the level of knowledge of students and basing on it to approach their pupils. 3. You need to collect all knowledge, abilities, skills, experience, and show it on the world level. And bringing learning to life is upbringing. This term is bring up to all people in our life, to bring up in all students in our life, or to bring up in all peoples in our in university institutes, faculties, and BSS are specialties. In talking about pedagogy as a process of bringing learning to life, I want to focus on three aspects. Pedagogy as animation, bringing life into situations. This is often achieved through offering new experiences. Reflection is creating moments and spaces to explore lived experience. Next term is action. Action is working with people so that they are able to make change in their lives. Next presentation, please. Typologies of pedagogy methods you see, they are very many. Presentation, exhibits, demonstration, drill and practice, tutorials, games, storytelling. Next, simulation, role-playing games, different games, and observation, conversation, debate, discussion, generative development, motivation, field trips, case studies. It's a very known methods because case studies to use in all teachers, in our universities, in our institutes, in our lessons. Next, interaction modeling, facilitation, collaboration, field trips, apprenticeship, simulations, and so on. Because very many typologies of pedagogy methods have very important means. Next presentation. Scientific research methods of pedagogy is observation. It's answer, teacher answer and questions. Teacher asks to students, to all students answer to ask question, and students must be answer this question. Next, conversation. Next, to learn creation of students. Creation is a new technologies because creation is a new idea. Next method is text question, questionnaire. 5, analysis documents of school. 6, experiment, experience, search. 7th method is satisfaction, significance, information analysis. And next method is mathematics, kybernetics method. And next, principles of the education, then 7. First, education must be scientific. It's very more information about education because education only must be scientific. Next principles of education is to use educational aids, teaching media devices, and lessons. Education aid is a project, computer notebooks, envelopes, pictures, and newspapers, banners, and so on. Next, principles of education is take into consideration characters and personal ability of learners. Learners is a students because teacher must learn characters to all students because it's more important for lessons, for education, for upbringing. Next principle is system of education. Education because education must be very system. Next 5 principles is education realize and to be active learners of education. 6 principles is humanistic and democratic approach in education. Joint, next 7th principles is joint co-education theory with practice because it's too very important for our education, for our lessons, for study. And next presentation. It's a literature. You may to use this literature. You must to read very many literature about pedagogy, about to teaching, about to studying, about education and about upbringing. For example, first literature is pedagogy for handbook for local language. Next literature is pedagogy and practice in higher education, teaching and learning in higher education. The next literature is improving subject knowledge and subject pedagogy knowledge in employment, basic secondary initial teacher, training in English events. Its authors is Evans, Huxley, Holland, Khalil, Brussels. And next literature is pedagogy handbook for teaching in local language. Its author is Konika Tiba, Director, National Curriculum Development Center. Its literature has been 2007 year. Pedagogy, many discussions of pedagogy makes the mistake of seeing it as primarily being about teaching. Is this piece marked here? Seems explorers or origins of pedagogy and the often overlooked traditions of thinking and practice associated with it. He argues that a focus on teaching as a specialist role is best understood in other ways. Pedagogy needs to be explored through the thinking and practice of those educators who do to accompany learners care for and about them. And I give you, dear students, I give you many envelopes with different answers, and you must answer these questions. And I must to hand out this, and you open these envelopes and answer these questions in English, because and I will be next lessons I will be to ask you this homework, and I will be to put you assessment 5, 4, or 3, or 2, or 0. And you see, read the question, please. Only read. What is the question there?
I don't know the figure.
Good, very good. You must on next lesson to read very many information, to very many topics, and to read many literature, and you must answer with me, and I will be to answer to assessment to you, because it's I must to put your assessment. In recent years, interest has grown in pedagogy within English language discussions of education. The impetus has come from different directions. There have been those like Paula Freire seeking a pedagogy also of his. Next presentation. What? Back presentation. Picture. Like this. Look at the picture. There is drawing teacher and all students. She is explaining to the students. She is to give all information to the students. She is explaining. She is to give knowledge. She is to work with all students. For example, this. For example, it's what is upbringing? Upbringing is education. May I see education, because upbringing is very important for universities, for all institutions, for all educations, for all lessons. Playing in more important for our life, because upbringing tips upbringing are intellectual upbringing, ecological upbringing, economical upbringing. And the next upbringing tips of upbringing is ethic upbringing, aesthetic upbringing, spiritual upbringing, and so on. Each tips of upbringing. The next question, for example, the next question is how must be professional teacher? It's a handout. Professional teacher must be very clever, because on the lessons, on the universities, on the institutions has different students, and they may to ask to teacher different questions, and teacher must be answered in all questions to the students, because it's very more important for our lessons. The next question, for example, you may open these questions. And how must be student? How must be student is very good student, because student must be to read very many, because it's too more important for studying to our university to the lessons. First ability is student must be to respect teacher and to be his or she is to creative ideas and so on. Next question is how must be professional teacher? Is professional to know all information about subject, for example about pedagogy, about psychology, and so on. And next abilities of teacher is to know how to explain, to know how to give new information from generation to generation. Next functions of teachers is to know how observation, to know how speech habits, because teacher must be to explain very beautiful, very good, must be to explain. The next functions of teacher is how know organization, and how know to be authority in profession, to know how correct associate with students, know how see future of students. And next functions of teacher is distribution attention. Students must be in education center, because if students not on the lessons, teacher don't to explain them. Teacher must give knowledge and upbringing. And the following a list of the most important theoretical problems are identification of the basic laws of bringing and education process, analysis and generalization of experience of teaching, develop and update methodological framework, the creation of new systems of training and education. 4. Using the results of pedagogical experimentation in teaching practice. 5. Definition of prospects of development of education. And next, the topic has questions related. The question is games technologies. Games technologies is to game on the lessons different games, role playing. Humans and many other animals spend the better part of their childhood engaged in play for the simple reason that it's the best way to learn and generate new ideas. These works in adults too. Learning the latest programming language or framework can be very effective if you play with them. Famous physics and Nobel laureate Richard Feynman attributes his Nobel Prize to playing around with a wobbling plate. It was easy to play with these things because it was like uncorking a bottle. Everything flowed out effortlessly. I almost tried to resist it. There was no importance to what I was doing, but ultimately there was the diagrams and the cool breezes, and that I got the Nobel Prize for came from that fiddling around with the folding plate. The next topic is education. Education is a pedagogical category is upbringing. It's a multifaceted process that includes several activities, in particular the formation of the students of the valuable relation to society and themselves. A set of measures of training and education. The presence of various types of educational institutions might make especially the pedagogical categories. Pedagogical, I say you, it's education, it's upbringing, it's develop, and it's information. And methods of pedagogy is debate, test, discussion, presentation, observation, conversation, and short story, and so on. And pedagogy with different other subjects is psychology, pedagogy connection with psychology, pedagogy connection with story, pedagogy connection with all social subjects, pedagogy connection with ethics, and connection with aesthetic, connection with culture. Culture is a subject about behavior in all people in our life. Preschool pedagogy is an object of pedagogy, the impact of which is directed to a child of preschool age specific. Its peculiarity is due to age and as a consequence, thinking, attention, memory, and the main activities of children under 7 years. And education has different mediums, ideas, and devices. It's a projector, notebooks, books, banners, and cancellaries, pencils, and handouts, and computer, projector, newspaper, stand newspaper, and so on. Its peculiarity is due to age and as a consequence, thinking, attention, memory, and the main activities of children under 7 years. Tests preschool branch of science are formulated in view of its theoretical and applied roles, social and educational science plans, reflecting the main functions of pedagogy. First functions of pedagogy is facilitate the process of upbringing and education of children in accordance with the requirements of modern society. And second functions pedagogy is the study of trends and prospects of pedagogical activity at preschool as one of the main points of development. And this literature you must be to read because it's literature named Teaching and Learning in Higher Education. It's a handbook for students, for teachers, enhancing academic practice. It's a third edition. Authors is literature is Steve Kettridge, Stephanie Marshall, and Heather Fry. It's a very good literature for our topic, for our subject pedagogy. And next literature is two new book named Pedagogy and Practice, Teaching and Learning Education in secondary schools. Leadership guide. It's a senior leader, subject leaders, and teachers in secondary schools. It's a literature was published 2004 years. And the next topic is education and local language. Education, education is derived from Latin word educare, which means to bring up. In its technical sense, education is a process by which society deliberately transmits its accumulated knowledge, abilities, skills, and so on, which society values from one generation to another. Education can also be looked at as a stimulation of inquiry and reasoning skills that are beneficial to the development of the learner's independent thought. It is the process of bringing up the young generation to full knowledge, skills, values, and norms of the society. It's my first lesson in English because now I'm worried now at the moment because I said it's my first lesson in English. If you want to ask me something about this topic, about this thing, you may to raise your hands. Okay? You may to raise your hands. It's the process of bringing up the young generation to full knowledge, skills, abilities, values, and norms of a society. This is easily done through a common language. Before European colonization, African societies had their traditional ways of transmitting knowledge, skills, and values, which is referred to as indigenous education. And so on. It's finished in our lesson. Over. You may to ask me some questions. If you don't understand some facts about our topic, our subject, this thing, you may ask me some questions, and you must to raise your hands. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attention.